Bitcoin has finally broken above 89k, so where am I taking profits? Let's break it down. Hi traders, Paul here. Let's see if we can find this week's Bitcoin moves to trade. Make sure you stick around until the end for key levels to watch to inform your trading. But first up, this is Bitcoin 4-hour chart, and we have finally broken out of this very tight range we were in throughout December and have now broken clearly above 89k, the 3-day 200 MA and the 4-hour 200 MA, which is this yellow line coming down here. Essentially, the price action was stuck between around 89k and 86.5k, and while Bitcoin was trading in that range, this ideal retracement zone approaching 84.5k, this area was the best entry zone prior to a confirmed break of 89k. But now we've had that break, we can get rid of this box like so, and now turn our attention to this zone, which is the best entry zone following a confirmed break above 89k, which has now happened. The important thing to recognize is Bitcoin is approaching resistance. So as a result of this, we can't really enter a long trade here, as of course the probabilities of a further move upwards are not with us until we see a confirmed break. And therefore we need to wait for a retracement to essentially confirm the SR flip of 89k and the 3-day 200 MA and the 4-hour 200 MA. And this zone is best for that, which is essentially made up between about 90k and 88k here. So the next best entry zone for Bitcoin is within this range, and that's what you should be waiting for. It's the most manageable play because even if the price action does come back down here and lose those moving averages and 89k again, at the very least, you're in a position at the bottom of this upper range, meaning that you'll likely get the price action coming back up to give you the bearish retest, which will give you a potential no loss exit. So it's a much better play than coming in here on the hopes of upside when we haven't had confirmation. So we want to see that move down from here, and then we can look to accumulate in this zone. This is the current play, and again, just to clarify, that zone is between about 90k and 88.5k. And if we switch to the daily chart, we can see the breakout of this symmetrical triangle was very clean, and we've moved above our bullish confirmation line, which is in place to mitigate any potential risks of a bull or a bear trap on either side. I wasn't just waiting for a candle body close out of the pattern, I was also waiting for a candle body close above this confirmation line, which essentially is representative of the top of the range which we've been trading in order to mitigate the risk of any potential bull or bear traps. And once we've had that additional candle body close, we can now look to come in on the flip side of the pattern, and therefore that would look something like this, which is again an entrance around 89 to 88k. But before we break down our new revised key levels to watch this week, this is Bitcoin weekly chart, looking to answer the question, where is Bitcoin heading now we've had a breakout of 89k? Well, the most important thing to recognize is that this is the first bullish move we've had following this significant markdown, and the most likely scenario is Bitcoin is simply coming back up to retest the flip side of the previous range, which essentially begins at around 101k. You could argue the range is between around 108 and 101k, but the reason why we're talking about 101k is because the 50 MA over the next month or so is going to be around that area, as you can see, hence why I've got this red dashed line. So the price action is essentially on its way up now to retest the 50 MA which we've lost, as well as the first line in the sand which was forming the base for this previous bullish movement. So you are looking to enter a long position now. Bitcoin has broken above 89k. You need to be mindful about where you're looking to take profits, because the next battle is overhead, starting at around 101k, meaning that you're not looking to enter here to trade Bitcoin all the way back up to previous all-time highs and potentially beyond, because the chances of that happening are quite remote at this point. And until we see a break back above the 50 MA, then we have to presume that we're going to come up, retest it, get rejected, and then start coming down like this as the bear market takes hold. Now, of course, if the price action gets up to 101k and we get some really bullish news and the market manages to get above the 50 MA, then of course we then have a different narrative to discuss, and then we'll start thinking about different potential opportunities going forward. But we have to presume, following the loss of the 50 MA, you can see this is the start of the bull run, we got above it, and then we haven't been below it until November this year, and now of course we have broke below it. So we have to presume this is going to be a bearish retest of the previous range and then a further move lower. So if you are looking to enter a position here, you want to be aiming to take profits around this level, meaning that any Bitcoin long play at the moment is going to be a very straightforward range play between where we are now and the next major resistance level above. So some of you may be thinking now, okay, so we're entering a bear cycle, and that until we break back above the 50 MA, it's more downside. Well, yes, that's true, but the question would be then, where do we stop? Well, looking at this chart, this is Bitcoin 2-month 50 MA bear cycle predictive. This is the first top from the previous cycle. We had a double top in 2021, but this is where the RSI, stock RSI, peaked. And then you'll notice when the stock RSI becomes fully oversold, that is essentially where the bear market stopped. And that also coincided with it tapping the 50 MA, the newly formed 50 MA, on this, the 2-month time frame. Now, we haven't obviously come anywhere close to the 50 MA on the 2-month throughout the entire bull run, but if we were going to draw a line in the sand as a potential stopping point for a bear market, then the 50 MA could be a likely candidate. And you can see the stock RSI is very firmly already on its way back down. Now, that doesn't mean that the stock RSI can't do this and come back up and put in new highs. It could do that. But right now, the signals we're getting are bearish. This previous move down on the stock RSI lasted around 610 days, even though, of course, the bear market didn't actually begin until the second peak in November of the same year, 2021. If we do presume, and presume he's doing a lot of heavy lifting there, we continue to head down. It looks like we could be starting to bottom out beginning of the second quarter with potentially a 48k target. Now, 48k has also been a notable stopping point on a variety of different charts, so there's a lot of credibility to that price point. And then we could see Bitcoin consolidate for the final part of 2026, just like we did in the previous bundle. You see these essential consolidation candles, and then at the back end of 2026, we then start to make a move up again once we've tapped the 50 MA. So that's the premise. And of course, the stock RSI needs to come back down into this green range here, essentially to become oversold. So that's the idea of what we might see from a bear market. But that doesn't mean, as we've been discussing, that we're not going to have a move up first before another move down. So we just have to understand the context of what we're trading. We shouldn't be looking now to enter for a long-term position. This would be potentially short to medium-term trades, trying to capitalize on the move back up to test the previous range we were in, and then taking profits there, and then waiting for the next move down, and then looking to accumulate again at the next support level down. So that's essentially the idea. But this chart does highlight how the price action could play out over the next 6 months or so. But any question regarding whether Bitcoin has entered a bear market or not, I think when you look at this chart, the answer is firmly yes, it has. But as the previous cycle showed, it may not be a straight move down, and we may have a relief rally first before we then continue down. So word of caution here, but this is mainly a conversation about where you take profits for any Bitcoin move now, as of course locking in profits is the most important thing. So now we've had a confirmed breakup, we're just looking for the ideal entrance, but being wary of the fact that when we start approaching 101k, that's going to be another profit taking area which we should all take seriously, as there's very little point in entering a position here expecting it to come all the way back up to 125k, because if you do that, you risk not taking profits at the appropriate price point and then just watching Bitcoin come all the way down, and then by the time you realize that Bitcoin isn't going to head back up to 101k, you're essentially left holding the baby and you've lost the profits from the move where we are now, and that's of course what we want to avoid. So in the coming weeks, locking in profits once we enter this area is going to be very important, and then reevaluating how the price action interacts with these levels before considering another position.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
But now you know that 101k is the ideal place to take profits on any further upside move from Bitcoin. Let's check in with key levels to watch this week. First up, local support is now between 89k and 90k, with major support now at 84,500. The invalidation for any bullish premise would be a close below essentially what is 81,500, with current local resistance for the price action at essentially around 94,500, with major resistance overhead at about 101k. Now you might be asking, well, hang on a minute, that's quite a jump between local resistance of 94,500 and major resistance of 101. Let me just touch base with that briefly. There is essentially a low volume, low liquidity space, essentially between about 100k and around 96k. And you can scroll back, you can see again, there's a bit of a gap here, meaning that if Bitcoin can essentially break above local resistance, it's pretty clear sailing all the way up to about 101k. Now, of course, there's a few little areas here, but when you see these low liquidity spaces, the price action typically, once it breaks above local resistance, if it can find its feet, will move up quite quickly, and therefore that's why there's that disparity. But that's it for now. I'm Paul with ArcisFX. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. It really does add fuel to the fire here at Arcis, and I'll be back tomorrow with a members only live stream with the birthday boy, James. So if you're not already a member, please consider joining, and then I'll be back again on Thursday for a more crypto focused live stream where you can ask me questions, get to check out coins and tokens you're thinking of trading, and see how Bitcoin is doing at the back end of the week. And then of course we've got altcoin gems on Friday, so you've got something to trade. And also, if you're not already in our private group, you can check out the link in the description, as we'd love to have you. Catch you in the next one.